The air inside Studio 33 was kept purposefully thin, refrigerated to a crisp 64 degrees that kept the audience awake and the guests from sweating under the merciless overhead grid. It was a sterile, sharp environment designed for clarity rather than comfort. The set of Real Time was a study in aggressive geometry, glass surfaces reflecting every nervous tick. Into this arena walked Jason Momoa. He did not walk so much as occupy space, his stride eating up the distance from the wings to the center stage. He was a mountain of a man, dressed in a way that defied the austere dress code of the political talk circuit. A faded pink linen vest, loose canvas trousers, and enough heavy silver jewelry to anchor a small boat. As he took the stage, the audience erupted, a visceral, guttural cheer reacting to raw charisma. Jason smiled, that famous, eye-crinkling expression, and waved a hand adorned with skull rings. He shook Bill Maher's hand. The contrast was almost comical. Bill was slight, sharp-angled, dressed in a fitted gray suit that seemed to armor him against the world. Jason was tactile, warm, a creature of earth and salt water entering a laboratory. He sat down, the chair creaking audibly, and leaned back, spreading his arms along the top of the upholstery. He looked relaxed, the picture of a man who had nothing to prove. But Bill Maher was not looking at the jewelry or the smile. He was looking at Jason's eyes. Bill sat with his hands clasped on the desk, his posture erect, his expression hovering between amusement and surgical intent. The applause died down slowly, lingering until Bill finally tapped his pen against the glass desk twice. Silence fell. "Jason Momoa," Bill said, his voice dry, cutting through the lingering energy. "Welcome to the Thunderdome." "Good to be here, man," Jason said, his voice a deep, resonant rumble. "Big fan. Always interesting to see who survives the table." "We usually survive," Bill replied, leaning back. "It's the ideas that sometimes get bruised." The audience chuckled, a safe, warm-up laugh. Jason grinned, shifting his weight. He was used to the late-night circuit where games were rigged for fun, where axes were thrown and beer was chugged. He was used to being the most likable object in the room. He was not used to the stillness Bill Maher curated. "So," Bill began, looking down at his notes, "the new film, Kingdom of the Tide, another billion-dollar entry into the canon of things exploding underwater." Jason laughed, a singular booming sound. "Ideally, yeah, it's a ride. We put a lot of heart into it." "Heart," Bill repeated, tasting the word. "And a lot of GDP, I assume. The budget was, what, 200 million? "Somewhere around there," Jason nodded, unbothered. "It takes a lot to build a world that doesn't exist." "Right," Bill said. "And in this world, you are once again the reluctant savior, the man from the wild who comes in to teach civilization a lesson about hubris." "That's the archetypal journey," Jason agreed, sensing a slight shift in the wind. "It's about protecting what matters. The ocean, the lineage, the things we can't replace." Bill nodded slowly, eyes narrowing behind his rimless glasses. "Protecting what matters. You've been very vocal about that off-screen as well. Activism, plastics, the sacredness of land. You're not just an actor anymore, Jason. You're a symbol." "I don't know about a symbol," Jason demurred. "I just use the voice I have. If I can get kids to care about the reef because they like the movie, that's a win." "A win," Bill echoed. He had a habit of repeating the last word of a guest's sentence, stripping it of context. "It's interesting you use that word, because winning implies a contest. And in the contest between saving the planet and marketing a movie, I'm curious which side is actually keeping score." The room went quiet. The shift was subtle, like the drop in pressure before a storm. Jason's smile froze. He tilted his head, his physical size suddenly seeming less like a relaxed sprawl and more like a fortress being surveyed. "I think they go hand in hand," Jason said, his voice dropping an octave. "You need the platform to spread the message." "Do you?" Bill asked, leaning forward on his elbows. "Or do you need the message to sell the platform?" Jason blinked. It was a slow, deliberate blink. The interview had been going for 3 minutes, and already the safety of the promotional tour had evaporated. The polite expectations of a celebrity interview were dissolving, replaced by the clinical, cold light of an interrogation. Jason settled deeper into the chair, his massive hands clasping together in his lap. "Go on," Jason said softly. Bill smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I intend to." The screen behind them displayed the poster for Kingdom of the Tide, a saturated image of Jason holding a glowing trident. In the studio, the image loomed over them, a testament to Hollywood excess, while the man himself sat in the stark reality of the lights. Bill gestured vaguely toward the poster with his pen. "Let's talk about the carbon footprint of salvation," Bill said, his tone breezy. "You spent 6 months shooting in Australia, Hawaii, and London. Private charters, massive sets, diesel generators running 24/7 to make the water look that blue. And then you go on Instagram and tell people to stop using plastic straws." A ripple of nervous laughter moved through the audience. Jason didn't flinch, but his jaw muscle tightened. "We offset our carbon," Jason said steadily. "The production was one of the greenest in studio history. We banned single-use plastics on set. We donated to restoration projects." "Offsets," Bill interrupted. "The modern indulgence. The Catholic Church used to sell indulgences to forgive sins. Now we buy carbon credits so we can fly private jets to climate conferences. It's the same mechanism, isn't it? You pay a fee, you feel better, but the sin remains." Jason shifted, bringing one boot up to rest on his knee, a defensive posture. "It's not about feeling better, Bill. It's about doing what you can within the system. I can't swim to London to do the premiere." "No," Bill conceded, "but you don't have to do the premiere. That's the part that fascinates me. You present yourself as this outsider, the wild man, but you are deeply, inextricably embedded in the most consumerist machine on earth. You are the hood ornament of the industrial complex you claim to hate." Jason looked at Bill, eyes dark and unreadable. "I never said I hated the industry. I said we need to be better. I'm trying to change it from the inside." "Are you changing it?" Bill asked, voice sharpening. "Or is it branding you? Because from where I sit, eco-warrior is a great marketing demographic. It moves merchandise. It sells the recycled polyester action figures." "I don't control the merchandise," Jason said quietly. He was speaking less now, his sentences becoming economical. He was beginning to realize that every word he offered was being caught in a web. "But you cash the checks," Bill countered insolently. "And that's fine. I'm a capitalist. I like money, but I don't pretend my stand-up routine is saving the rainforest. You do. You blur the line between entertainment and morality until nobody knows the difference. Don't you think that's dangerous?" "Dangerous?" "Yes, dangerous," Bill said, "because it gives people the illusion of progress. They watch your movie, see you looking heroic, talking about the soul of the ocean, and they leave the theater feeling like they've participated in a movement. But they haven't. They've just bought popcorn. You are the opiate, Jason. You make them feel good about doing nothing." The audience was silent. They were waiting for Jason to crack a joke, to flex, to diffuse the tension. But Jason remained still. He looked at his hands, heavily ringed and scarred, then back at Bill. "I think you underestimate people," Jason said finally. "I think people need hope. They need to see that strength can be used for protection, not just destruction." "Strength," Bill latched onto the word. "Let's talk about that. Your brand of strength, the beard, the muscles, the scars. It's a very specific performance of masculinity, isn't it?" Jason frowned slightly. "It's not a performance. It's who I am." "Is it?" Bill tilted his head. "Or is it what we need you to be? We live in a soft age, Jason. Men spend their days in cubicles, staring at spreadsheets. They feel neutered. And then here comes Jason Momoa, throwing tomahawks and drinking Guinness. You're a primal fantasy for a domesticated society." "I grew up in Iowa and Hawaii," Jason said flatly. "I grew up outside. This isn't a costume." "Maybe not initially," Bill pressed, "but you have to admit, you lean into it. The motorcycles, the leather, the aloha spirit mixed with the biker gang aesthetic. It's curated. It's a very lucrative caricature of a man." Jason took a slow breath. He was analyzing the room, feeling the energy. The audience was captivated by the impending collision. But Jason wasn't going to explode. He understood leverage. In this room, words were Bill's leverage. To survive, he had to stop giving Bill ammunition. I just live my life, Bill, Jason said. If people want to project their issues onto that, that's on them. But you invite the projection, Bill said, leaning in. You monetize the projection. You are selling a version of authenticity that is entirely manufactured. And I'm asking, does the guy in the pink vest even know who he is anymore when the cameras are off? The silence that followed was heavy, textured with the low hum of the studio equipment. Jason Momoa stared at Bill, his expression stripping away celebrity polish until only raw, grounded stoicism remained. He did not look angry. He looked disappointed. I know who I am, Jason said, words soft yet weighted. I am a father. I am a son. The rest is just noise. Bill didn't let the moment settle. He treated the sentiment like a weak structural beam. Father and son, universal terms, safe terms, but let's look at the responsibility that comes with the noise. You have 50 million followers. You post a picture of a protest, it gets 3 million likes. You post a picture of a motorcycle, it gets 4 million. The algorithm prefers the lifestyle over the cause. Doesn't that tell you something about your actual influence? Jason's eyes remained fixed. He stopped blinking as frequently. It tells me people like motorcycles. It tells you that your aesthetic is more valuable than your ethics, Bill corrected, voice precise. You are allowed to be an activist only as long as you remain a sex symbol. The moment you stop being the cool wild guy and start being actually inconvenient, calling for real sacrifice, the audience will turn off. You're on a leash, Jason. It's a long leash made of gold chain, but it's a leash. Jason uncrossed his legs, placing both feet flat on the floor. I don't feel leashed. Of course you don't, Bill smiled, a tight expression. Because you stay within the boundaries. You attack pollution, a vague, faceless enemy. You don't attack the specific corporations that sponsor your film premieres. You don't attack the studio heads flying in the same jets. You play the rebel, but you're on the payroll. Jason looked down at the desk, studying the grain. When he looked up, his face was neutral. I pick my battles. You can't fight everyone at once. Or maybe you just don't fight the ones who sign the checks, Bill said, letting the accusation hang. And that brings me back to this idea of masculinity you represent. The protector, the warrior. It's a lovely narrative. But in the real world, the warriors aren't on red carpets. They're usually poor, usually ignored. By co-opting that imagery, aren't you engaging in a kind of stolen valor? A sharp gasp escaped the front row. Stolen valor was a loaded weapon. Jason's eyes narrowed, the muscles in his neck standing out. For a second, the physical threat he represented seemed to fill the room. But he didn't raise his voice. He withdrew, leaning back, creating distance. I have never claimed to be a soldier, Jason said, the rumble in his chest gone. I tell stories. That's the job. But you blur the lines, Bill insisted. You accept the awards for environmental leadership. You accept the accolades for being a real man in Hollywood. You take the credit without the risk. You're wearing the costume of a revolutionary, but you're just part of the entertainment division. Jason remained silent. He looked at Bill with a dawning realization. Bill wasn't interested in an answer. He was interested in the dismantling. The goal was to prove that nothing was real. You're quiet, Bill observed. Usually the wild man has a roar. I'm listening, Jason said. I'm listening to you try to tell me who I am. I'm not telling you who you are, Bill countered. I'm asking you to justify the gap between the man you pretend to be and the business you run. Because it is a business, Jason. You are a corporation. And corporations don't have souls. They have profit margins. The audience was frozen. The atmosphere had turned from a talk show into a courtroom where the defendant refused to enter a plea. Jason looked at the camera, breaking the fourth wall for a split second. I think, Jason said slowly, that you mistake cynicism for intelligence, Bill. You think because you can find a flaw, you've found the truth. But people are complicated. I can be part of the machine and still try to break it. It's not one or the other. That's a convenient philosophy, Bill shot back. It allows you to have your cake and eat it too. You get to be the rich movie star and the righteous crusader. Must be nice. It's not about nice, Jason said, whispering. It's about trying. Trying, Bill scoffed. My grandmother tries to open a jar of pickles. Men with power don't try. They act. And looking at your record, I see a lot of acting, but not much action. The accusation hung in the air. Not much action. It was a direct insult to a man whose entire existence was predicated on action. The audience braced themselves, expecting the Hollywood ego to flare. But Jason Momoa did not fight. He went still. Absolute geological stillness. He looked at Bill not with anger, but with clarity, the look of a man who had seen the strings on the puppet. You think this is a game, Jason said. Bill smiled reflexively. Life is a game, Jason. We're just discussing your strategy. No, Jason said. You're discussing my worth. I'm discussing your impact, Bill corrected. There's a difference, though. And frankly, when someone puts themselves on a pedestal as high as yours, gravity is a fair topic of conversation. You want to be the king of the tide? Fine. But don't complain when someone asks why the water is still rising. Jason nodded slowly. I don't mind the questions, Bill. I mind the intent. You're not asking because you care about the water. You're asking because you want to see if you can make me drown. I'm asking, Bill pressed, leaning forward, because I think you're a hypocrite, a charming, well-meaning, incredibly photogenic hypocrite. And I think deep down you know it. You know that every time you step on that private jet, every time you sign a deal for a plastic toy, you are betraying the very things you claim to love. Tell me, Jason, how do you sleep with that contradiction? It was the question too far. Personal, presumptuous, designed to humiliate. The audience gasped, sucking the oxygen out of the room. Jason stared at Bill. He didn't blink. He didn't breathe visibly. He just sat there, a massive silent force. The silence stretched. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Bill waited for the anger, for the defense, but Jason gave him neither. I sleep fine, Jason said. His voice was flat, final. Really? Bill pushed. Even knowing that your lifestyle is part of the problem? Jason shifted, signaling a change in state. I think we're done measuring, Bill. Measuring. My integrity, Jason said. My authenticity, my sleep. You've got your ruler out, and you're trying to see if I fit in your box. I don't. I'm just trying to get a straight answer, Bill said, frustration creeping in. No, Jason said gently. You're trying to win. And the only way you win is if I get angry or if I apologize. And I'm not going to do either. Bill scoffed. So you're just going to opt out? That's your move? The strong, silent retreat? It's not a retreat, Jason said. It's a boundary. A boundary, Bill laughed harshly. We're on a talk show, Jason. The whole point is to cross boundaries. If you wanted a safe space, you should have stayed on the red carpet. I don't want a safe space, Jason said, placing his hands on the armrests. I want a respectful one. And since you can't provide that, I'm going to provide it for myself. By running away, Bill taunted. Jason looked at him, and for the first time, there was pity in his eyes. You really don't get it, do you? Get what? Bill snapped. That you don't have to destroy something to understand it, Jason said. The sentence hung there, simple and devastating. It cut through the intellectual posturing. Jason moved. He didn't lunge. He didn't storm. He simply reached up to his lapel, his large fingers finding the clip of the lavalier microphone. Wait, Bill said, his composure cracking. We're not done. I am, Jason said. The sound of the microphone unclipping was amplified by the studio speakers. A harsh click, followed by the rustle of fabric. Jason held the small black device for a moment, then leaned forward and placed it gently on the glass desk with the precision of a man placing a chess piece. Bill Maher sat frozen, his mouth slightly open, a retort dying in his throat. He had interviewed presidents and rock stars, had been yelled at and insulted, but he had never been dismissed with such calm, absolute finality. The power dynamic evaporated. Jason stood up. The sheer scale of him became relevant again. Seated, he was a guest. Standing, he was a force of nature. He towered over the desk, over Bill, over the petty geometry of the set. He buttoned his pink vest with slow, deliberate movements. He adjusted his rings. He looked only at Bill. Thanks for the chat, Jason said. His voice was unamplified now, stripping away the broadcast quality. It sounded human, resonant, and real in the dead silent studio. "You can't just leave," Bill said, his voice sounding thin. "We have 2 segments left. We haven't talked about the sequel." Jason smiled, but it was a sad smile. "You don't want to talk about the sequel, Bill. You want to talk about me, and I think you've said enough." "This is live," Bill hissed, glancing at the red tally light. "You're walking out on live television. They're going to call you a coward. They're going to say you couldn't handle the heat." Jason paused. He looked at the camera, then back at Bill, weighing the threat against his own internal compass. "Let them," Jason said, and then he turned. He walked toward the wings, his boots thudding softly. He didn't rush, didn't look back, didn't wave. He simply occupied the space until he didn't. He walked out of the light and into the shadows. The studio was left in a vacuum. The applaud sign was dark. The guest chair sat empty, the impression of Jason's body still visible in the cushion. The small black microphone lay on the desk like a discarded weapon. Bill Maher stared at the empty chair. For a moment, the mask slipped. The cynicism, the sharpness, it all flickered, revealing a man who was suddenly, starkly alone. He looked like a man who had brought a knife to a gunfight, only to realize his opponent wasn't interested in fighting at all. Bill cleared his throat, a loud, ugly sound in the silence. He adjusted his cuffs, searching the teleprompter for a quip to frame this defeat as a victory. "Well," Bill said, struggling for cadence. "That happened." A few nervous titters rippled but died quickly. The energy had curdled. It wasn't funny, it wasn't triumphant. "I guess," Bill continued, "that when you ask real questions, sometimes people give you real answers, even if the answer is goodbye." He tapped his pen on the desk. He looked at the empty chair one last time, and for a split second there was a flash of something like respect, or perhaps regret. "We'll be right back," Bill said, forcing a painful smile. "Don't go anywhere. Apparently the guests already have." The band kicked in, a jazzy number clashing with the mood. The lights dimmed, but the cameras lingered on the empty chair. It stood there as a testament to a boundary drawn in silence, a reminder that dignity isn't about winning the argument. It's about refusing to participate in the spectacle. As the feed cut to black, the image burned into the minds of everyone watching. The intellectual had spoken. The wild man had walked, and in the silence, it was clear who had actually said more. "So what do you think? Was Jason Momoa right to walk away? Or did he owe Bill Maher an explanation? Did Bill cross a line by attacking Jason's integrity? Or was he just doing his job?" Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more breakdowns of moments where celebrity and reality collide, like and subscribe. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply leave the room.